'Tis the season that we're getting ready to close the final transactions of the year. And throughout the year, we always receive questions that revolve around the title company. And our title, is a title search necessary? What do we need to do when we go to the title company? So there's just so many questions that revolve around the title company business that we thought we would invite our expert of the week, Donna L.Couchoud from the Title Company of Jersey. She is the newly appointed manager of the Northfield Division, and we're thrilled to have her here today to discuss Title Company 101. So Donna, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you, and we always love learning more and more about title and why we need it and some of the basic procedures. So again, welcome. And I thought maybe we should start off with a basic question is, what is a title search and why is title so critical in a real estate transaction?
Well, first of all, Mary Lou, thank you so much for having me as an expert. I don't know that I would call myself an expert, but the only thing I do know professionally is title insurance. I've been doing and working at a title company since 1987. So I do believe that title insurance is the utmost importance besides what you do in finding the home, which is, you wouldn't need me if we didn't have you. Once you find a home, you need to make sure that your buyer is purchasing a home that they're going to own free and clear of any issues. So, your expert series certainly is helpful in many aspects, but the title insurance is just as important to be sure that there are no liens, judgments, encumbrances on the property that is probably the single most largest investment that your buyer is purchasing.
Absolutely. So normally, we put a property under contract, we're through our attorney review, the contract's prepared, we have the earnest money deposit checks, and normally they're delivered to the title company. And then from there, it's really like a handoff to the title company to make sure all the legalities are in place, and that's where we defer to you. And maybe you could take us, briefly through the process of once you get the original contract and the earnest money deposit and how, we proceed on behalf of our clients.
Sure. So not only do we do all of the searches to be able to ensure clear title, but we also act as escrow agent. So we are in charge of, opening that escrow account for the buyer, and we acknowledge the funds to all parties to let everyone know that we are holding the money pursuant to the contract. After that, we start all of our title searches. So depending on if it's a cash transaction, less searches would be required. But if the buyer is getting a mortgage, then the lender does require quite a bit more searches, because they have to be sure that not only the buyer is getting clear title, but that the lender is going to be in the first lien position, because they want to be insured as well. So once the contract is given, we then do not only a tax search, an assessment search in the county or the municipality, but we do Patriot search for terrorism, if you can imagine, in this day and age. We, crazy. We do tax, assessment, superior court, judgment searches, and then of course all the county searches to check for mortgages and encumbrances and prior deeds and liens, and of course the judgment searches will pick up anything from outstanding bills or DMV judgments or child supports. So we do all of those searches.
Basically, the variety of searches is to ensure that the title is clear and there's no encumbrances, and we have a clean or clear title for the buyer when we attend settlement, that they don't have any liens or anything that they need to be concerned about, and that's when the title policy comes into place.
That's correct. Yep. So after we do all of the searches, and then we submit them out for everyone to review. If there are any issues that come up, then we address them with the seller or their attorney or their agent. Some issues may be, of course, if there's mortgages on the property, we have to, we assist the seller and their agents to obtain their mortgage payoffs, or if there's any type of liens, we can certainly help facilitate, getting payoffs. But in this crazy time of privacy, it is a little more difficult for title companies to obtain payoffs nowadays, because lenders are, so worried about, third party and giving their non-public information away. But certainly do try to facilitate and help in any possible way that we can to get every transaction to the table.
We find that the title company is normally very instrumental in helping us remove any liens from the property or really dig into it. Even during these challenging times, they seem to be expediting those releases, just as quickly. I mean, I know everybody's very busy in the title world, but still they're, on top of the liens and getting them removed as quickly as possible. So again, that's something just to reassure the buyers out there that, again, everyone is working in a timely manner to get the transaction closed on their behalf.
Right. So, what is interesting about title companies is, so I started at this title company, the Title Company of Jersey, in 1987. I always joke with people, and when I was 5, I tell them I started. So I started here in 87. I worked here for 16 or so years. I did leave for a little bit to go to another title company, but I came back because title companies are regulated by the state. So you could certainly shop a title company, but since all of our fees are regulated, it's really about customer service. And I feel that this company, the Title Company of Jersey, we have the values, we have the ethics, we have we really care about our customers, we care about our clients, and we really do give 110%. So, it's just, I don't know, I just have this feeling about this company, and we're just growing and evolving every day, and I'm just grateful to work for such a great company.
So important that you embrace your culture. And I know the Title Company of Jersey has been around for many, many years, and they always have regarded a very, highly respected reputation. And I know they've been in business longer than me, and that's pretty long, as I actually started when I was 5 as well.
That's right. That's right.
So let's talk a little bit more about the actual title insurance.
Okay.
Routinely we get questions, well, who's going to pay for the title insurance and how much is it? I know, like in Pennsylvania, it's a shared expense between the buyer and seller, but in New Jersey, it's a little different. Maybe you can speak to that as well.
Sure. So title insurance is, again, regulated. Title insurance is based on the sales price of the property. So it's a formula. So it's not cut and dry based on the sales price. The buyer pays the buyer. It's the buyer's choice, of course, to choose a title company, which may be different in Pennsylvania as well. But the buyer does pay for the title insurance policy. And also in Pennsylvania, I believe they share settlement fees and transfer tax fees. But in New Jersey, the fees are different. So the seller pays for the whole transfer tax. The seller and buyer split the settlement fee, and the buyer pays for all the title fees except for the settlement fee that's split in half.
So how do you calculate the costs of the title insurance policy? How is that based on the sale price, or?
Title insurance premium is based on the sales price, and again, it's a formula. So whatever the sales price is, it's a calculation based on that. And if there's if there's a lender, then we issue a simultaneous lender's policy for an additional $25. So additional $25 for the lender's policy.
So, and that policy is calculated, and that is a figure that's state regulated as well?
It is, yeah. Title insurance is unlike any other insurance, which is my favorite closings to do are first-time home buyers. And I've been getting a lot of those lately, which is just so great because the rates are amazing. And to explain to them the amortization schedule and to show them all those numbers and to explain to them that you're getting a mortgage at 3% or under, it's like free money is just so crazy.
Well, in our area, how, give us, explain to us your role as far as, okay, today's my day of settlement. I'm super excited. I just saw my brand new house. I'm a first-time buyer or a secondary home buyer. I have my new shore house and I've just done a walkthrough. It worked out really well. And I'm getting ready to walk into the title company. Can you just explain, give us a little feel of what goes on in the actual closing at settlement?
Sure. So it's this crazy time of COVID. So we actually are very fortunate here in our Northfield office that we have a training center in our lower level. So in the training center, it's very large. So there's so much room for social distancing. So I bring them downstairs and we have 4 or 5 tables that I could actually have the buyer and their agents, or, like I always have first-time home buyers with their mom or dad, or, so you're all welcome to come because you'll have your own section, so, and then the sellers will sit at one table or, and their agent, or they can sit over to the side. There's plenty of room for social distancing. And after every closing, we certainly sanitize every area and you get to keep your pen and, so it's very,
Yes, very
yes.
accommodating, and that's very relieving because we have a lot of clients that are very concerned, but they still want to close and they prefer to be there, and that really makes sense to them.
Right.
And, so once you're in the closing and everyone's comfortable, the Alta or the CD, the closing documents, have been prepared and they're normally reviewed in advance. So from there, the procedure is you're reviewing the documents with the buyers and sellers. And
I do. Yeah. So now in 2015, the Department of Banking and Insurance changed the guidelines. So they created the closing disclosure and the Alta statement. So the closing disclosure is a document that goes out to the buyers 3 business days prior to closing, and that gives the buyer a detailed settlement sheet of all of the fees that they need, and then their bottom line, pretty close to what they need for closing. I prepare what is called an Alta statement that I'm licensed with the state of New Jersey to prepare, and then I submit that to all parties in the transaction, attorneys, agents, sellers, because no one else in the transaction is able to see the closing disclosure but the buyer and their loan officer for privacy purposes. So everybody has already seen the figures, so they are pretty comfortable of what's happening 3 days before closing.
Remain confidential, and then both parties approve the closing statement. And you're getting ready to then cut the checks and pay out the seller, and the buyer's mortgage papers are all signed and prepared. And I know that normally at the closing, the deed is signed by the seller. And quite often we're asked, well, when am I going to get my deed? When am I going to have the actual deed to the property? And maybe you could explain a little bit about that process as well.
Of course. So we're coming into the 21st century now. So we now e-record, which is so great. So I used to say in my I call it the spiel at closing, that about 12 to 14 weeks, you'll receive your original deed and title policy. But now we're getting deeds back and out to the new buyer in a couple of weeks. I mean, technology is phenomenal now. So we have our own e-recording department here at the Title Company of Jersey. So, I mean, in a day or so after closing, I can submit my closing deed and mortgage to my e-recording department, and they can submit them, and in a day or so, they're online, they're recorded. So the buyer can look online and see their deed recorded, and then in a week or so, get their policy in the mail. So it's really great.
Wow, talk about expediting a transaction.
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
And then after the closing, everyone receives their documents, and routinely we'll get a call, and it could be, after a 7-year time period, and a buyer or seller will say, do you have our documents, or can we call the title company and retrieve our documents? We need them for some particular reason. How is that handled, the storing of the documents, and how long can a client revert back to a title company and ask for their closing documents? Or
fortunately, we've been around a long time, so we did go through 3 different software changes since that I know of, but I'm 90% of the time I'm able to retrieve documents. Some of them are on disk, some of them have been scanned, some of them are in archives, but most of them I can get off of our system online. So, and people do call all the time for documents that they're looking for, a copy of their survey, or their accountant needs to see their settlement sheet from 2015, or so we're always happy to help, but only to a party in the transaction. So we'll never give something that's not theirs. So
the day's coming, and we're getting close to settlement, and it's time to prepare the Alta. All the calculations are being prepared, and we have clients that are calling us and they say, well, I already paid my taxes. What happens there? Does it get prorated? And so maybe you can just explain to us a little bit how you begin to prepare the Alta statements for the closings for both the buyer and the seller, and kind of some of the basics that's involved.
Sure. So we have a processing department here at the title company. So we have a room full of ladies there. Gentlemen are welcome too, but we just have ladies now that are processing the files. So one processor gets assigned the file, and that's what they do. They accumulate all of the documentation for me to prepare the Alta, or another closer. We have 3 closers here in this office. So they'll obtain for us the mortgage payoff, or if there's any other things on the seller's side that need to be paid in full. For example, the water reading, they'll order from the municipality. If there's any invoices that need to be paid on the sheet, they'll request them from the agents. And then the mortgage company will send over their closing disclosure for us to put the fees on the sheet. And then once I have all of that documents and they scan them into our system, then I can prepare the Alta based on everything that our processors have accumulated for me. Great.
There is a little bit of a difference on how some closings are conducted when you're talking about North Jersey and South Jersey. So when I was first in real estate, there was a legal matter, and Opinion 26 was mandated, and there was kind of some conflict between the attorneys and the realtors and North Jersey and South Jersey. So for me, I was just coming into business, and my dad was an attorney, and he was, involved in the business. And, I remember people would be frowned upon the fact that, oh, your dad's an attorney and, in real estate, because there was such a conflict. So this Opinion 26 came out, and the real estate transactions were conducted a little differently in Atlanta County or in South Jersey as opposed to North Jersey. So maybe we could speak a little to that and explain the difference in our area where the realtors are involved in the transactions, and in North Jersey, they're strictly handled by attorneys and the realtors sort of basically step aside. So maybe you could talk about the difference in the area, even though we're all one state.
Yeah, it is different. I do deal quite often with North Jersey attorneys, and they don't really enjoy dealing with South Jersey title companies because they have affiliations with their own title companies there in North Jersey, or they are a title company, or have their own title companies. So they do it that way in North Jersey. But here in South Jersey, we have the ability to do our own searches. I mean, we certainly welcome attorneys. We love all of our South Jersey attorneys and welcome them to come to the table, or have a wonderful relationship with them. But they don't conduct closings, or they don't insure title where they do that in North Jersey. So it's just a totally different, there's a line.
Right, they do all their own title work. And in New Jersey, down here in South Jersey, we always recommend attorneys, and it takes a little of the pressure off of the realtor. But we don't, as realtors, we don't have anything to do with the title, and the attorneys down here don't have anything to do with the title, where in North Jersey they actually do the search and do all the research involved to bring clear title into fruition. When working with buyers and sellers, it's so important that we have a strong relationship with the title companies that we do business with, because we actually are guiding the buyers and sellers and educating them along the way to the path of a purchase or a sale of, one of the largest investments of their lifetime. So then, as we coordinate with the title companies, it's so important that the title company is there as well to guide the buyer and the seller through the entire title process and closing day, and just, it's actually the finish and the finale, which should be seamless. So Donna, you may want to speak about how we work together, the realtors and title company of Jersey, so that we ensure every client is as satisfied as possible.
So when the buyer chooses a title company, or the agent suggests us, we are so grateful, because it is the buyer's choice to choose us, that we do take the buyer by the hand, as Mary Lou said, and just make sure that that they are getting the best possible experience that they can get, and not only ensuring clear title, but making sure that it is a seamless process from start to finish.
An expert and a leader in the title industry, what would you say to a buyer who is getting ready to make a decision on selecting a title company? What are the most important aspects that a buyer should look for?
I always tell people that title insurance is regulated by the state, so you could choose clearly any title company that you want, but you really want someone that's going to provide you with the best possible customer service, and I believe that we do. I believe that we work the hardest, and we genuinely care, and it's going to cost you the same amount of money wherever you go. But I believe that the title company of Jersey really cares.
Well, Donna, thank you so much for our being our expert of day on our Ask the Expert series. And we were just really delighted to have you here with us to share your vast amount of knowledge in the title business, and we continue to enjoy a great relationship, and we appreciate everything you do for the team here at Farley and Farley, and so glad that you're able to share your culture with us today. So thank you again, and here's to the title company in Jersey and their new manager, Donna L.Couchoud.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
Thanks.
Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed our Ask the Expert series today. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe. If you enjoyed us today, please hit like, and we'd love to hear your comments.